Hello and welcome to the 95th episode of Rambling Weekly. Sorry for the lack of an episode last week. But yeah, we'll get into that. But how are you doing? Hope you're doing well. I hope things are moving swimmingly. As for myself, I have been stupidly busy. It has been, truthfully, September and August, really. The last 2 months have been very swamped with a lot of stuff, and maybe like a little bit of a reprieve in the middle of it, but then really like with work in general, it's been a lot busier than I expected, and I think some others, it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, I think I want to say for at least September, I think I've done like 5 or 6 hours of overtime each week, so it's not like excessive, but it certainly stacks up. And then when you're trying to do other things, living life like everybody else, things can kind of get away from you a little bit. So, and that's kind of what things did. They got a little bit away from me. Plus, there are times when I'm like, oh, I've got ideas, and maybe earlier in the week or something, I'll have it in my head good. I'm like, oh, and then I get wanting to record something. Usually I wait until the day of to record. Currently it is 7:41 a.m. On September 29th, a Sunday. But when I do that, a lot of times it's like my brain has completely forgotten what it was I was going to try to talk about with it. And I even trying to make notes doesn't really. I think that's kind of what makes this a little bit neat, is the whole aspect of it. Yeah, sure, having the idea. I just don't like to take notes or anything. If I can help it. Excuse me, if I can help it. Actually, you know what? I'm going to pause and get a drink. For some reason, I'm really, really, really thirsty. Don't know why. There, much better. Gracious. Anyway, I don't know. For whatever reason, it is a bit of a difficult thing, and sometimes I don't know. I think we all get this. We get the brain fuzzies, the brain fogs, and I wouldn't even say it's brain fog. It's more of I'm just tuckered out and I really don't feel like doing anything. Which isn't a good place to be, because it's not. I don't know. It's not something I like to do, and maybe that's what causes it. There is dude, kind of take a break a little bit. I think I need to knock the dust off and the rust off and stop thinking like that, and kind of get refocused, because it's been a couple weeks. I'm still I think I'm only around like page 35 in part 2 for Sage's Calling. It's over there. I can kind of, if I lean really far back. Oh no, I'm actually on page 38. Look at that. Okay, all right, a little bit better than, but nowhere near where I want to be. Like I want to be. If I was to give myself some sort of focus, I guess. By year's end, I would like to have 200 pages of it done. So, I mean, that should be more than plenty time to do that. I just need to get focused. And stop dilly-dallying. And hopefully, with a little bit. Because the problem ends up being, like, with work. Like, I don't mind what I do for work. The thing is that I get back at varying hours. And so, if I'm getting back after doing a 10.5 hour day or so, it's just enough to just kind of make it a little less likely for me to really do much once I get home. It's just kind of like, and I tell myself, oh, I'll just take a little break and then get it, and then I don't end up doing it, because the thing is that when I tell myself I want to do the break, that's when I've got the impetus to want to continue kind of keeping the ball rolling. So Yeah, and then by the time I don't, it's like blah, 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 blah. And that makes it a bit more troublesome on that front, unfortunately. So, but yeah, I've been doing a bunch of work. I had a tiny bit of writing. I still haven't finished part 5. I've recorded a little bit of it, but I still have to record half of it. It's actually going to be shorter all around, just because it's a little bit more focused. I just have not, and I mean part 5 for the genealogy thing. I just haven't had a chance to properly record. Really, it's been, I don't want to record late and then talk in the little whisper voice like I did a lot of times. And, I just, just hard to really want to be like, have the energy for it kind of thing. Because it's not like I'm doing it as a job, right? It's more of a hobby and something I just do is something that's interesting and whatnot, or fun. And when I'm tuckered out, it's a little less fun for me to do because I get really aggravated with myself, especially if I talk and bugger something up. I know that happened when I was recording the first half. There was a line in there that I must have written half asleep because I was like, what am I trying to say? Like, you gotta love that, right? And so that was me trying to adjust it on the fly. Was aggravating me to no end because I was like, I don't even know what I was trying to say here. But yeah, so that, oof, gracious. Oh, I guess I should mention this because I have. It's been. I think I might have mentioned the first instance I did of doing the DMing for game, like online tabletop thing that we do with a few people. Did the first one about a month ago or so because it's like every other week, just because that's how schedules work for us right now. And then this past week I did it. I didn't feel as good with it the second time around, partially because I just had not had a good chance to do much prep work, which I think is very important to keep things moving along. That, and also we kind of have this, there's a balance that we're trying to keep because our sessions are very short. We don't start until fairly late on a weekday. And we have to be like, okay, yep. So they don't go, more than maybe like an hour and 45 minutes to 2.5 hours at most. So I actually gave them a lot of stuff because like the previous one they'd gotten over, they had defeated some baddie, but I've also been adding in some things that are not a part of the module that my one friend had been using to kind of run things because he was pretty new with it and didn't quite feel comfortable tweaking too much. I'm a maniac, and I'm like, yeah, we're just gonna start ripping it apart. let's go crazy, and so not only with just things going on, but with gear and other things to try to not necessarily balance it out, but like for example, one person has been floundering a bit. Because they just don't, just how their roles have been and everything has not been helpful, and just how their stats are. They don't really have a focus on where they want to be entirely, or maybe they do. It's just not been very expressed very well, and so they a few sessions back, before I had taken over, they had started to, you ever play something like just a sandbox game or like Morrowind or something, and you're like, you know what? quick save, and then you just go psycho mode. He was starting to show those tendencies. He was like, "Yeah, let's just start the murder hobo," and it's like, "No, let's not do that. Let's rein it in, rein it in. Let's be a little bit more focused. Don't be quick saving and then trying to do something crazy." But so I tried to think of something to possibly give that person and their character a little bit more of an identity, and it seems to have worked. We will see how it kind of goes further on, but yeah, I'm hoping can figure that out, because that's as much as I hate it. I do enjoy doing the DM stuff. It's just part of it's also because there's just so much work on the back end, especially when it's online and you're fiddling with stuff to try to make ends work and whatnot. So you're like, okay, all right, let's yeah. If it was in person, more it'd be easier, I think, for me. But with it being online and having to deal with certain programs that are not so fun, because it's not 5e or something that's like been very ubiquitous, that's very known and ubiquitous throughout just tabletop stuff, so that there's like so many different ways to play it easily online. This is, I think I mentioned before, it's Dragonbane, which is like a step old school, but still in the same vein, and a little bit more, I don't want to say dumbed down, but a little bit more stripped down, so there's not a bunch of extra stuff. And yeah, so we've got that. And also I find it interesting that even with this, there's still concerns of battles taking too long and stuff like that. And I think that's a thing that's is really hard to balance, especially because it's a group of 5. So when you have a group of 5, you've got everybody, unless you start doing it a timer stuff. Like, that's something I had, and I got to get back to it with the sci-fi idea that I had, doing like kind of like a mech or spaceship sort of the battles with those, forcing times to be quick. So it's like you can't just be like, okay, I'm gonna hem and haw. It's like, no, you're on a timer. You've got 10 seconds to give me an answer on what you're doing. And because it's, I always think of it, like my brain goes into thinking of it almost like the certain action bits during like even though I've not watched that many of them or anything like that, but like Gundam or something, where you're going through and you're trying to tear through a bunch of cannon fodder, we'll say, but not necessarily always the case, but just the imagery in my head. And I know what little bit I had done with my one friend of a one-on-one one shot that he really liked how I did that. But it's just like, that's with one person, that is very different than having 5 people. That's a lot more computing power. But I don't know. Perhaps I'm maniac enough to be able to pull it off once we get to that level. But yeah. So gracious. But that's what's been going on that front. I have been, speaking of Morrowind, I've actually been dabbling in it the last handful of days. Like I'm like I've got to beat this game. It annoys me, and I get it. There's just so many ways you can get lost and, fiddling and farting around with other things. But it's like, you know what? I just need to beat this game. And once I do that, I will feel less inclined to just kind of muck around. And that's not to take anything away from the game. That's more just on my end. Yeah, so like a little bit of that. I've dabbled a little bit more into the last spell. There was a DLC that came out a while back. I was like, I'll get it, and I haven't played it. Let's see, when's the last time I haven't played it in a week, but I was playing a little bit of that. I still enjoy that game. I think they were trying to make a tabletop version and stuff. I think it's a fun game. I know some people probably were a little bit miffed about how they wanted to pivot into doing tabletop stuff and all sorts of odds and ends, but that's there. This is what always is a hard balance to make, right? If they're wanting to do something like that, they should totally, and I think that's what they're doing. Yeah, that's what they should be doing. If that is really what their heart is telling them that they should do, then go for it. For other people who don't really care for that, there's plenty of other things to sink their teeth into. I see that argument being shouted about with other things like movies, TV series, and what have you. It's like, if you don't find it interesting, don't watch it. If you don't think the game looks fun, don't play it, don't buy it. And I think more people should just do that. Be like, it's not for me. The end. And then that's really where the conversation should end. Because if they're like, I don't find it interesting, like, I don't think you can force people to be interested in something that they don't like. And I think it's a little more than a little. I think it's a bit tyrannical to be like, oh no, you will like this. Otherwise, you won't get anything. That's a bit psycho. Because there's just plenty out there for everybody to enjoy. Speaking of which, it's actually what I want to get to for this topic at hand. That is so recently, I'm going to bring up his channel real quick because I want to make certain I get it correct. So recently, I have been, during my working hours, which I am allowed to do, just as a heads up. Cause I say that because there are a lot of people I know that work in different things that have like earbuds and stuff, so they can listen to stuff while they're doing other things. Well, they probably really shouldn't, but what have you. No, timeout. No, time in. Maybe it's just being morning crusties. I don't know. Anyway, I say that because I can't do that. And I know some people can just put it in one ear and be able to function and stuff, but I can't do that. Otherwise, I won't be able to hear anything. So I really need to, because I've never really played them proper. I think I've played all of like 20 minutes or something of Thief 1. I want to play through Thief 1 and 2 at least. Because being like half deaf, that makes the game a whole lot more difficult if you're wearing headphones. Even with something like Morrowind, it's always funny when getting off one of the Silt Riders or Silt Striders, and they'll have, not always, but the one in Balmora has I don't know what they're. The Silt Rider Strider person, the one that's like, hey, they'll take you to different places. If they're on the right side, I can feel the sensation of something coming through the headphones, and I can hear a voice. But because there's like 8 voice actors, so you're not like, I can't narrow it down specifically to be like, so I mean, I know generally who it is, but it's like I hear but like I don't know I can't hear what they're saying or anything like that, and I think it would be fun to make it that much more difficult on myself to play through Thief. That's also what's kind of deterred me from playing it, because it's like I have heard how fantastic, and I've seen tons of different people play mods of it and stuff. Thief 1 and 2. Um, and it's just like, yeah, it would be fun, except for the whole hearing thing. As impressive as that is, I can't appreciate it, and it'll probably curse my existence. But I think it'd be fun to do. So yeah. Anyway, um, I I brought all that up for a tangent because, like, for work, I'm driving around a bunch, and I will either play a bunch of music that I have, or I will listen to uh, something like either Mystery Science Theater 3000, because those are available to listen to on the YouTubes and what have you. And I I don't remember what it's called, but that whatever it is that makes the ad service free for you, YouTube Premium. Like, I have that because I hate not being able to close my phone and still listen to things because I'm on the road and I don't want my battery to die. Plus, ads had been getting increasingly obnoxious to the point where I was like, this is ridiculous. There should not be a 30-minute ad for a 2.5 minute whatever, or, here's a 4 hour nonsense. That I find that to be ridiculous. Anyway, there recently I'd been getting back into, because I'd watched them before, and they're just really well done. But they're these like retrospectives that a Rowan J. Coleman, which is the name of his YouTube channel, and ROWAN. J is the letter J, Coleman, COLEMAN. He 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 does a lot of sci-fi stuff, and he did a lot of sci-fi retrospectives. He's done, a whole bunch of the Star Treks, Babylon 5, Red Dwarf, Battlestar Galactica, SG-1. But he's done a lot of those, and in listening to them, there's been this, at least with a handful of them, because not to say that the others don't have this, but it just stuck in my head after thinking about it and listening and stuff, is just seeing how and hearing how there's been this, how the odds have been defied for these things. Babylon 5, the idea had, I'm going to butcher his name, Straczynski, the writer and stuff. I think that's his name. I'm going to look it up because it is, yes, J. Michael Straczynski. There we go. He had been running around with the idea from like 88, 89 or so, and finally a handful of years later was able to get it to go. But it's like the things with how Star Trek would be, like, comes in for a moment and then peters out really, really quickly, only to come back at different iterations. Cartoon for a moment, and we're talking about the OG Star Trek. Cartoon for a little bit. That I remember comically seeing how it was one of the highest rated Star Trek pieces of entertainment in the franchise. It's like, okay, I have the series. I watched it, but it looks a little dicey. But it is neat that they got like all the voice acting to be done by the cast. Except for somebody, I think Chekhov didn't come back. But anyway, so they had that, and then it went dormant, and then came back as a series of movies, and then picked up again. This kind of ebb and flow, this push and pull, this you see this Battlestar Galactica as well. They try to capitalize on Star Trek well, not Star Trek, but Star Wars, and in doing so, they were ridiculed by trying to ride those same coattails, but it's its own very different story. Like, it is not simply Star Wars Light. It is its own thing, and they had a season that was very specific. Hey, we're going to make a 6-part miniseries, a la old school Shogun, which, if anybody's seen the newer one, you might want to take a chance and watch the old one. That's actually my dad's favorite miniseries and stuff. So I remember watching that way back when I was a wee lad. Maybe not that much of a wee lad. Maybe more lad than wee. But I don't know what that even means. That doesn't mean anything. Ignore that. But for Galactica, it was meant to be that, but then it just kind of, because they were like, oh, this is picking up, it's popular, here, right? 18 more episodes for something you had no plan for, even though it wasn't 18, I think it was like 13 or something. Anyways, way too many, and they had to rush, and it just kind of fell apart, and then they had something the following year that was not good at all, and then it lied dormant for 20 some odd years, and then came back to again in the aughts with a re-envisioning of it that initially was like, we don't want this, but then came around to it and be like, wow, this is actually really impressive. This was really, really good. It is this act of passionate, like, love and care that creators have, that is really, really inspiring to me. And not only that, but it's also how they defy the odds. We sort of will turn and lament to the person who keeps on plugging away and nothing ever comes of it. And whether that's a personal dig at myself, I don't know. But people will see that from the outside and go, why are you doing that? What's the point? Or see it as a folly, like, you're wasting your time. Obviously nobody cares for this, nobody has any interest in this. Why are you doing this? In seeing certain things like those, it's and it specifically in sci-fi, because I don't know, maybe I feel an odd man out on this, but it does feel like there's a bit of a dearth in the sci-fi stuff. I know that the Expanse was around for a few years and whatnot, but Star Trek hasn't. It seems like Strange New Worlds has picked itself up a little bit, but Picard it seemed more of like it was about an action thing, but in the same hand, it felt unnecessary, like, at least to me. I know what I mean by being unnecessary. Like, you could have had all those characters in there. Picard being the linchpin of all of it just seems like trying to eat your cake and have it too. It's like, just go with the new thing, and go with these other, like this cast or something, and push forward. That's also been part of the problem, is I think until Discovery it had been stuck, unable to really move beyond Deep Space Nine and Voyager. And it was just kind of like, whether that's because they were just simply exhausted, and a lot of the writing talent had also left. So there's a little bit of a trouble with that when you've got all this prolific, very smart, just very clever writers going elsewhere. And I think with other sci-fi as well, like Babylon 5. It was still in the same territory, but also very very well written. One of my favorite characters, Jakar. He's fantastic. He's great, fantastic, good wholesome character. Uh, but you get that, and then you're also getting the other side of it, the just rough and tumble action of like something like Stargate SG-1, for more of the let's make things go boom instead of doing any sort of it's like the antithesis of something like Star Trek, where it's like, yeah, we're going to go through here, and then we're just going to probably be guns a blazing, pew 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 pew. It is fantastic. I remember what that was probably, if it, Next Generation was certainly some of the youngest sci-fi experiences that I had watching stuff. Like I was there when Best of Both Worlds Part 1 came out, and it ended, and then you had to wait all summer before you could get Part 2 and stuff. And you're like, oh my goodness. Which, in one hand, like, it certainly makes things a little bit more difficult trying to do cliffhangers for stuff, because then nowadays, right, you can just watch them back to back, and it's perhaps not as gripping because you don't have that anticipation of having to wait as long. And I think you get that with other series, but I think that being able to just watch everything all at once kind of makes it lose its luster a little bit. It certainly makes it a very different experience, right? If you have cliffhanger and then goes right into the next thing, it's like, well, they ain't really hanging on the cliff too long. That hang in there kitty poster really doesn't have as much oomph. When you could just be like, okay, 6 minutes from now we will get the answer to the exciting cliffhanger. Da, 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 da. I mean, SG-1 did the same thing, where it's like, oh, hey, it was Apophis early on. Let's blow Apophis' ship up. He's coming for Earth, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's a second one. Well, oh, shoot, we've got to change our plans. Anyway, with probably less SG-1 and more so some of the other ones like Babylon 5, Battlestar Galactica, Star Trek and stuff. It's just more of the feeling of love, of trying to make something come to be. And I don't know if that is quite as the word I'm going to use is sensible, but not necessarily in the way of like understanding sense, but being more like sense able, like you were able to sense it. I don't think it is something that we are able to sense as, I don't want to say as much, but as perhaps as easily. This is something and this is probably why there is a little bit of a slower burn for me on certain things, is that I tend to want to look and watch and kind of take in different things that are going on, and then start to try to piece things together. Like, I do this in conversations as well. Like, Slade and B Clerk, when we have our chit chats, they probably notice that I'm not nearly as chit chatty, even with just 3 versus 1, because I think 1's a little bit easier for me to kind of. I mean, it's a little harder just to have to listen. Like, I only have so much patience and so much listening power. But I don't think somebody just wants a wall to talk to. And not really give responses. But I tend to kind of revert to that. Not necessarily in some sort of crazy Machiavellian way to be like, how can I spin this and whatever. Because I'm not a psycho, but more of just kind of hearing some of the interests and what they've got going on, and some other things. I tend to do that with crap that's going on the internet, or in life in general, as well. And it just basically what I'm getting at is I hear a lot of people say how much they love and care for things, but similarly to how people will say, "Hey, I need to get my shit together." There's a big difference between saying something and doing something. And I'm very much in the mindset that you don't need to tell somebody. Like, the more that you try to, your protestations of saying, "Hey, I'm a good person. Hey, I am super smart. I am what have you." I think the more that somebody tries to do that, and I would wager that a lot of people probably feel this way, but the more that you try to profess those sorts of things, the more likely it tends to be that that is not really what's going on. Much like when somebody says, "Hey, need to get my shit together," they're saying it, but that's because their brain, in hearing themselves say it, has kind of gone, dog-eared that page of the book and been like, "Hey, we certainly tried, didn't we? Pat yourself on the back. You don't have to worry about this anymore. You've made an acknowledgement of it. You've done it. You have made the first step, and the first step is acknowledgement, and that's all the other steps we need to make." And I think that's what's been going on, is that you see a lot of these interviews and stuff where they talk about these things, but you don't really see it come out to be that way. And I get it, there are a lot of moving parts behind the scenes, so in a way that dilutes that, but I think that's, even with some of these, Babylon 5 in particular, I think you can still have so many moving parts, but everybody be of the opinion, or Farscape. Think of Farscape. I think Farscape's another great example of it, where it's like you're really really trying to not have this be. However, because everybody else believes in it and are for lock and step with the energy that's being put forth and whatnot, it becomes very palpable. And I don't feel like that's quite what we've got going on. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't, because I certainly don't watch a ton of stuff. I'll catch clips of things, but I think part of it's also, you can't watch everything. You can't, you can't listen to everything. So you try to pull as many parts and pieces as you can to get an idea of, okay, all right, here's this. And certainly when you get people who are chirping one way or the other, you're like, oh, okay, ignore. Like, I don't need to hear the same thing regurgitated over and over and over about why you dislike or like something. I don't care. Like, that's just, you get to a point where you have a general idea of, okay, this person probably likes this because of XYZ. This person probably dislikes it because of, 1, 2, 3, what have you. But, yeah, I guess, just the I say all that. This making, this passion, this love for something, and those who have listened to ramblings and stuff before, I'm very much of the mindset that to paraphrase it as best as I can from a old German philosopher, that the limits of my language means the limits of my world. Now, I say that because words are a funny little thing, in that they are what but they are what congeals emotion, feelings, unexplainable things that we have going on in our noggin, it solidifies them into something. Now, what happens when you start to try to take the essence out of that, and are unable to express that? So, think of love. It's, at least certainly in the English language, has gone through a bit of a rough and tumble process in the last couple decades. I think there is still that gleaming core of, to borrow Princess Bride's true love. I think that there's still that there, romanticized as it may be, but a lot of times it just it gets conflated with lust, or just kind of it's about the doing the sex, doing the naughty stuff, and less about a care for something or someone. And I think in doing that, and not really having great avenues to express ourselves, I think this is why when you try to less the slang and whatnot, but for real, to talk to my fellow Zoomers, even though I'm not one. You can be aware of the slang, but more importantly, it's like when you push that word into a different region, and it's more of this lustful intent. It's more about like just simply sex, and not really embodying some of the things that some people may try to think of for it. The innate care, willing to like protect, help, foster. This. For me, it's like basically the feeling of wanting to, like the feeling of selflessness, or selfishness, being selfless. I think that's the word I want. my brain's going into goop. With somebody else, like not necessarily reckless abandon for oneself, but not being selfish. And that to me is where that blossoms in the field of concrete that we have slowly built for ourselves. But in the same hand, we tend not to use a lot of these other words. And I think in boiling our language down further and further, to where we just sort of jettison out words that we don't use very frequently in our everyday, like things like passionate, or how often have you heard just somebody say, passion? If somebody's very passionate about something. I'm passion. Whatever. Even I can't. I can't bother to put a bunch of words together for it. Because I am stupid. I am effectively dumb. So I have I have passion to work on this, or they're very passionate about following their career path. He's very passionate about reading. She has a lot of passions, like who. I was going to say cryptozoology, but that's the word that just comes to mind. She wants to find the Sasquatch. But good Lord. uh, but when we boil things down and then we don't express them, we lose that. I feel like we lose a piece of being able to demonstrate that. If we are unable to identify or express something, I it becomes lost in translation. If there is a an unfeeling, more mechanical process to things, yeah, you can certainly have that in there. I think to some degree that is necessary to have deadlines and whatnot, but to not have a way to express that, I think we see that come about, and I don't know why. This is this is the joys of the ramblings, getting lost in the I would say the folds of my brain, but I think my brain is very smooth. The very smooth expanse of my brain. But um, but yeah, if you cannot express that sort of feeling, I think it does come out through your works, and that's not necessarily strictly meaning creative works, right? I think that comes out in your labors, which I would argue is your works, which I think that disconnect in itself really highlights a growing negative attitude, is that instead of just wanting to be free and just kind of have the fun to kind of do whatever, we're quote unquote stuck to do labors. And sure, it'd be nice to be super rich and not have to worry about that, but in the same hand, I know I would get into a lot of trouble. Like, it would not be a good thing for me. I'm much more content being an idiot than having to having way too much free time on my hands. Because even with the little bit of free time I have, it yeah, yeah. No. But yeah, just taking like the joys of not even necessarily joys, but I guess for lack of a better way to put it, the pride of what you do. To be like, I did a good job with this. And that's not to say after everything you gotta be, oh, yep, I did a good job. Because if you do that, if you're constantly saying, oh, I've done a good job, A, at some point you're going to be lying to yourself. B, at some point you've got to either ratchet it up because it's like, I mean, you can't be always doing a good job. There's just going to be some times where you're just not doing a good job. Or maybe you're doing a great job at something. But there are going to be times it's like, no. Peaks and valleys. It's not just all straight line. So, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It feels like there's a bit of a sterile approach to that sort of creation that's kind of like, don't really feel the the emotion bubbling, right? Like I said, it's palpable. Like, you can just sense it out of things. Whether that's due to how well the writing is, or the music behind something, or how something is filmed. There's just an intent that cannot be masked, and that's that is where I think I'm going to leave it, because if not, I'm just going to loop into myself, and it'll be this Ouroboros of rambling, and rambling in a straight line enough as it is that's enough. I think I don't think I need more of that. So we're going to leave it right there. The outro is going to be, I'm going to dig deep into, not too deep, mind you. We're going to go a bit old school with it. It is from the Foliage Ocean in Salsetta. The what is that, the one of the numerous versions of East 4, I would say. This song is the kind of like in the, how is it, hold on, not good. In the flames of the blaze, I guess, is a very very straightforward way to translate it. Probably could have been in the flames of the fire, but I don't know. I like that. Or in the blazing flames. No, in the scorching flames. In the flames of the blaze. We'll go with that. I don't, because like I said before, if anything, I'm a bit silly, a bit simple, a bit stupid. But that's what I got. That's what we're gonna leave as the outro. So thanks for listening. Hope your day, weekday, weekend, weeknight, and everything in between is enjoyable, and you get what you need to do and get it done, and hopefully not be too stressful for you. So thanks for listening. Fingers crossed I'll be have another one next week. I've got plenty of ideas. I just need to make sure I've got my brain. I've got enough brain capacity to actually do these ideas. So, yeah. So thanks for listening. Have a good one. Toodles.